Hello, how's it going? I just got back from my pilgrimage last night. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. I apologize for not uploading any videos before. It was not as easy as I thought it would have been, so that's that. In just a few hours, we're going on a retreat here in the seminary. Back at the seminary, and that means I probably won't be able to upload any videos in the next week either. So I just wanted to give you all a quick update on my pilgrimage. It was a beautiful experience, many graces, and I'm still trying to understand how it all went down, and trying to process all the ways in which the Lord was present to us in our trip. I guess I'll just share one story with you that I thought was really cool. Is how the pilgrimage ended, and maybe you can show you a little bit about how God was with us the whole time. So I was supposed to come back here to Texas on Friday, so 2 days ago. My flight was leaving around 1 p.m. from Paris, and I was gonna fly Paris, Atlanta, Houston, which is where the seminary is at. So that Friday morning, we wake up, and I see in my phone that my flight from Atlanta to Houston had been canceled, something to do with weather, snow, or something like that. But I was like, well, that's fine. I mean, I'm still flying from Paris to Atlanta, and then I'll see what happens in Atlanta. They'll probably reschedule me for another flight. So fine. We wake up, and we find a church where we can go to Mass that morning that's close to a train station that can take me to the airport. All this is important. You'll see eventually why. And so we go to this church, a beautiful church, one of the most gorgeous churches I think we visited in the whole pilgrimage. And so we go to Mass there at 8 a.m. After Mass is over, they end up having exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, and so we stay there to pray for a little bit, about half an hour. There was benediction, and we're like, this is awesome, like, let's do it. And we just left the church, and we go to the train station, say bye to each other with my two brother seminarians, and I head over to the airport in the train. So I get to the airport, and honestly, I was not there that much time before my flight. It was 2 hours before my flight by the time I got there, and so it was a little bit tight on time, and there was a lot of people in the airport, like tons. So I was a little bit worried, and so I tried to print my ticket, and for some reason just can't print it in the machine. So they tell me, like, go see this person, and I was like, okay, fine. So I make like all these lines with people, and like it's super slow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss my flight. So I end up talking to this guy who works for the airline, and he tells me, hey, you're not on this flight. And I was like, what do you mean you're on this flight? Like, I show him my reservation, like, I'm on this flight. And he's like, no, you're not. You're on the flight for tomorrow. I was like, no, like, here, this is my reservation. I'm in it. He's like, well, this says you're not. So, and what he guessed was that since my flight from Atlanta to Houston got canceled, they just canceled also my other flight. He's like, yeah, I guess they just didn't want you to spend a night in Atlanta, so you gotta spend an extra night here. And I was like, what the heck, like, why? So I told him if they could pay for my night in Paris, and he's like, well, I don't think so. Go ask these other guys, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I go talk to other people. The point is that I'm not on this flight, and I gotta stay an extra night in Paris. So I was like, okay, fine, that's cool. Which, pause, I think this was very providential for many different ways, but the first being, I think if I hadn't been taken off that flight, I would have missed the flight anyway, because there was so many people there. So even if I had been able to print my ticket, I don't know if I had made it through, like, would have made it through all the security lines. So so I think it was providential. I got bumped out because I would have had to pay for another flight. I don't know how. So anyway, so I'm there, and I'm like, okay, what do? I'm here. I had to spend an extra night. I didn't know where to stay. I was like, I could just do like a hotel, but like that's expensive just by myself. I'm not sharing the payment with my other brothers. And I was like, no, like, this makes no sense. I don't know what to do. So I just sit down, and I feel this tug, I think not probably, from the Lord, telling me to be bold and ask for somebody to take me in. I was like, no, I can't do that. But eventually I'm like, okay, I feel like that's what the Lord wants me to do, and I'm scared to do that, but because I don't like to do that kind of stuff, but I was like, all right, I'll do that. So I said, okay, I'll buy a train, and it's not too expensive, back to where I had come from in Paris, near to that church where we had gone to mass that morning. And I said, I'll go to the church and find a priest and ask him if I could stay the night. And so I go back, go to the church, look for somebody, find this guy who works in the church, and the guy tells me I'm not a priest, and he tells me that the priest is coming like an hour and a half. You can talk to him. And I didn't tell him I wanted to stay the night. I just told him, like, can I find a priest? And so I just waited an hour and a half there, just prayed in front of the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle. And an hour and a half later, surely a older man comes in, and I asked him, hey, like, are you a priest? And he said, yeah, I'm a priest. And so I tell him my situation. Hey, I'm a seminarian. I missed my flight. It's not leaving till tomorrow. Can I stay the night? And he tells me, well, you know, there's a shelter down the street. And I was like, oh, come on, like, let me stay the night. But, I mean, whatever. I guess he didn't know who I was, and it makes sense for him to send me to a shelter. So he just gave me the directions how to get there, and I was like, okay, thank you very much, like, appreciate it. I was like, so I was leaving the church, right, thinking, like, dang it, like, all right, Lord, I thought you wanted me to come here and ask at a church to stay, and that I would be given a place, but I guess not. I was like, well, we'll see what I find in this shelter. Maybe I'll encounter some people there, and maybe that's what you wanted me to do. So I'm on my way to the shelter, following the directions that he had given me, and lo and behold, I see walking towards me another priest, wearing his clerics with this lady. They were walking towards me, and they probably were going to the church or something. And is a priest that had celebrated mass that morning in that church. So I recognize him, and I'm like, I flag him down. I'm like, are you a priest? And he's like, yes. And I was like, hey, like, I'm a seminarian. I missed my flight. And he's like, yeah, I recognize you from this morning in the mass. I was like, yeah, dude, like, can you find me a place to stay? And he's like, okay, follow me. And so he interviewed me, kind of make sure that I was a seminarian and, like, all that stuff legit. And I showed him my passport and all that good stuff. And so he found me a place to stay, which is incredible. Now, the story doesn't end there. He ends up inviting me that night to go to this youth group evening. Some of the youth from France. They're like 6 or 7 guys and girls. And he ends up thinking, well, since you are somebody from Mexico, seminarian, it'll be interesting for them to see you, so you should probably just give a talk and speak about yourself. So I end up that night giving a sort of talk in my broken French, and then with some English and Spanish, and some people translating for me, to this 6, 7 young men and women, and it was just beautiful. Also getting to know them was a blessing for me, just seeing their hearts and how they're, you know, living their lives and at least trying in their way to grow closer to the Lord in the difficulty of being a young Catholic high schooler in France, Paris. Anyway, this is a real long story, and I don't know if you can see through it, just the God's providence. For me, it was just, my heart kept jumping from one second to the next. Just it was just a beautiful experience. And I think it all comes down, or for me, as I reflect on the experience, it all comes down to the fact that I try to be open and to risk to see if the Lord could do something with me or something for me. Because I could have been safe and just paid a hotel right away close to the airport and be like, okay, well, I'll stay an extra night, I'll just stay safe in my hotel. But instead, I felt the tug, and for some reason I was able to follow it. Probably because of the prayers of many of you, I had the courage to follow it, and because I risked, I think I received a lot. And so I guess part of my learning, I guess, lesson is to be able to risk for the Lord, and to allow Him to show His faithfulness and His providence. And just one more thing, even if I hadn't, you know, stayed at a place, even if I had stayed at a shelter or a hotel, I think the fact that I risked, that I was trying to follow His will, something else would have happened, where I would have encountered somebody, or He would have used me in some way. At least that's what I believe. Anyway, this is a really long video, longest video I've probably ever posted, and yeah, so hopefully that gives you a peek into how awesome this pilgrimage was. And thank you so much for the prayers. I definitely prayed for all of the intentions that you sent me by name. I wrote them down and prayed for all of them. And yeah, thank you for your prayers. Say a prayer for a good retreat, and I'll say a prayer for all of you who watch this video. Thank you, and keep it up. God bless you.